Hey everybody. I am Aimee's oldest brother from Mike Jr. We didn't grow up together, of course, and so I didn't get to see all this fun stuff. And first time I met her, she was 6, 7, 8. So we played. But I brought my poetry with me at that time, and my dad wouldn't let Reese or Aimee read most of it, because even though I look normal, I'm different from the norm also. So I'm going to read some poetry, just a couple of them, and Aimee started calling me after she got sick, usually late at night when she was in her mood. And I wrote her a letter, and I got my poems. She asked me to send her my poems, and I never did. So I'm going to read a couple now that I think she'd like to hear. This first one's called Dream Street. I didn't need eyes when I first got up here. You were on a street corner watching the lights change red, yellow, green, but you can't move off the curb. People are passing, and you look at faces you can't remember. You feel a need to pee. The lights change again. You wake up, find yourself closer to the edge, concrete to your ankles. The lights stay green. People are passing through. You start to scream. You smell rubber. Children tear at your clothes. Wind rises out of the gutter, blows dust in your eyes. You see, you are waking again, blind to the faces that pass, calling your name. You reach out, scratch a cloud. Rain falls, forms a puddle. Out of it, a boy offers a hand. You grab it, fall into bed. So if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about my dad for a second. My dad was married 5 times. I'm talking about him because of his wives. My mom is Pauline, and me and my sister Mary. And then there was Yvonne with Jeff Morrish, and Jeanette, who had Donnie and Doug, and they had Dennis. And then our beloved Phyllis, who had Jeff here, and they had, Mike and Phyllis had Aimee and Reese. And then there was Joan, who's here, who had 4 children, Randy, Rick, Bud, and Paula. And I mention these women because 4 of them have lost children. So, in your own time, honor them. Because like many of you, I've been grieving and talking to Aimee in my head, and what I wished I was said, or our conversations about the poetry, and thinking about Aimee and my father who passed away in 2008. I just shook my head and went, Our Father, and the Lord's Prayer popped up into my head. But because it's my dad, the poem came out like this. The prayer came out like this. Our Father who farts in heaven, hallowed be thy game. Thy motor runs, thy have no buns. You're late, for we ate at 7. And joking is how I've been grieving. We've all been grieving. And grief is necessary and good. And we can't hide from it, and that's fine if that's what we need to feel. But what we're really mourning for is ourselves, because we know we've been left behind. We know in our hearts that Aimee is now free and liberated, and we yearn for that as well. We yearn to remember that this unlimited state of being is really who we are. Death reminds us of the limitations we place on ourselves, and in many ways, from the perspective of those who have gone, physical life is more like death than what we now experience. And this is a poem I think Aimee would like. It's called Standing Naked in the Mirror. And I don't mean it in the bathroom. I mean the mirror of life. The street lights are all out, so I lean on my shadow. The moon's a dark spot between stars. We stare at nothing together. Everything at once is diffused. 1,000 moons and shards of glass. Broken in fragments, I laugh. What do I have to worry about? We all go from birth to death. Who needs to be alone? Standing naked in the mirror, I made a chorus of my bones and saw the dead smiling in their chosen garb. What are we but untold gems in broken jars? I went and got some flowers down at the farmer's market for someone who couldn't be here. And I talked to a gentleman, and in chatting, he was asking me questions as if I lived here. I said, no, I'm from California. And he asked me why I was here, and I told him, and he said, I've stopped asking people, or stopped saying sorry for your loss. He said, what was she like? And I said, large, loud, and proud. So, this is the letter I wrote to Aimee Sue. And like these fine souls, I wanted to slap her upside the head and wake her up a little bit. But one of our conversations, she reminded me of a song that I made up when we were out at Solduck Falls. Oh wee oh, oh wee oh, oh wee oh, oh wee oh. When Aimee farts, the trees fall down and lumberjacks go back to town. Oh wee oh, oh wee oh. And she remembered that from, 30 years ago? So I said, Dear Aimee Sue, I hope you enjoy my poems, and I'm really happy that you asked to read them. But I'm more concerned with you right now, sis. I know you're hurting physically and emotionally, and I know you're scared, really scared. And I hope you can read and hear what I'm going to say to you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. You are not your weight. You are not your past. You are not your anger. You are not your grief or despair or depression. You are not an alcoholic or an addict. But you have created the story, and now you are living it. And in order to change the story and path you are on, you are going to need to change the narrative. The first step is to learn how to love yourself. The first thing you said to me when we spoke was, I hate life. I've learned that life gives you exactly what you give it. It's like a mirror. It always says yes to whatever you say. So the first step in loving yourself is realizing that you are responsible for what you put into this mirror, and therefore what is reflected back to you. This is going to cause the part of you that is grieving the crappy parts of your life to raise its ugly head and say, screw that, I'm not responsible for how others act. I don't treat me like dog do. And you are absolutely right. I've had to edit this a little bit. It took me a long, long time to realize that wasn't what anyone said I was, and that I was responsible for how I act. I know you are not your anger. It's yours, but that is not you. I know you are not your grief. That's yours, but that is not you. And I know you are not your sadness. It's yours, but that is not you. I know you are an amazingly strong person, for only the strongest choose these lessons and tests of trauma, to learn what they can learn and to remember what they already know. But the suffering, that's optional. And you have made yourself suffer immensely. It's time to stop, sis. I know there's not enough alcohol in the world to drown the pain. I know there's not enough biological armor to protect yourself from what you feel inside. I know there are not enough cigarettes to cover up the grief and depression. I know how days turn into months and months turn into years, and the feelings take over, and pretty soon you don't even know what normal feels like. You're scared and hurt and ashamed and suffering. hear it in your voice every time you call. Even though I know you're drunk, I still hear it. Aimee Sue, you have a decision to make. What do you want the story of your life to be? Do you want to continue to wallow in the misery and hate you feel? Or do you want to live, feel joy and life again without a cigarette or a drink or another dead-end spin on the life is foobar merry-go-round? The choice is yours, and there are people who love you and that want to help you, but you have to take the first step. You have to face your fears. It's amazingly strengthening to admit how weak you are. And I know the resistance to that. God, do I know that one. And the many things we Morrishes are good at is being really, really hard-headed. But I speak from experience. The fear is not permanent. The self-loathing and hatred of life is not permanent. That's not you. That's just the emotions you've been storing in your body that are trying to get out. Dis-ease does not come from what you put in your body. It comes from what you keep in your body. So take the first step. I know it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. Releasing all those emotions, all the stories, all the trauma, feels like you're going to die. But let me tell you something. You have the power to let this version of Aimee go and discover and create a new one of your choosing, independent of any old excuses or reasons. You are the creator of your story, sis. How do you want it to go? Do you want this to be the way your story ends? You are not your weight. You are not your past. You are not your anger. You are not your grief or despair or depression, shame or guilt. You are not an alcoholic or an addict. You are a soul in human form, remembering who you are. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. No matter what you decide, Aimee Sue, I will always love you unconditionally. You matter. You are loved. And I will never, ever give up on you. Your big bro, Mike Jr. So I wrote her a new song. Oh-wee-oh, 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 oh-wee-oh. In Aimee's heart there is a girl whose smile lights up the whole wide world. Oh-wee-oh, oh-wee-oh. One more poem, actually two more, but only one of mine. But I read this in the last couple of weeks. It's called Don't Wait for the Wind. You think that little critical voice in your head is silent. Your organs are plugging their ears and trying to run away. You think the one you secretly admire knows what's in your heart. You think no one knows how you feel. Your face is like a commercial saying, buy this, buy this, buy this. But no one's listening. Most are too busy with their own commercials, and no one is buying. You think, if you tell the story enough, it's true. Well, here's the deal. All stories are true in this dreamland of souls. So don't wait for the wind. Set your course and open your sails. The wind will sail with you. Don't wait for another to finally notice you. Love doesn't care about form or color. It only wants to know, can you handle all of me? So open your heart and risk being foolish. In reality, love falls in love with itself, so you better get out of the way. You don't have to say anything. Every breath you take, every face you make tells the story. To end, I want to share a message I received from Aimee's friend Melinda, aka Mindy, aka Mindus Beastie, and her son Colton. Mindy said to say, she was the sweetest person I knew and my very best friend, and I will love and miss her every day. And Colton is going to be a fine poet someday. Wrote this to Aimee from Colton. Aimee was the world's brightest star. She was one of the nicest people I knew. I loved Aimee like a mom. She is the brightest star in the universe now, and I will never forget her. And neither will we. Thank you.